Hello historians, and today we're going to talk about the Second Amendment. Last video was the first, we'll do the second, and I will probably proceed down the list as people, in my opinion, fail to understand what these amendments are for. The thing to keep in mind is that the first, the second, etc. Amendments were part of the quote-unquote Bill of Rights. They're not the bill of we would like to let you have. They are not the bill of things that we might allow you to do for a little while and then we're going to take it back. Bill of Rights is kind of right there. I mean, rights, period. Today, a lot of people seem to be, and when I say people, I mean politicians, political junkies, political activists, the real upper end of our society. They choose to ignore, or they are flat out ignorant of historical precedents. For instance, well, let's read this first. There you go. Amendment 2, the right to bear arms. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I did not give them a shout out in the last video. I should have. This comes from the National Center for Constitutional Studies. I do not know if they have any considered political bias one way or the other, and I honestly don't care because they're presenting me the opportunity to read the amendments to you very plainly, very clearly, and they have not screwed with the words. This is what was written. So let's break this down. A well-regulated militia being necessary... Sorry, guys. Need more coffee. Mickey Mouse says hi. It's the right size coffee cup. And in the end, what do you care about? The coffee or the cup? A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Now, a lot of people want to point to this and go, aha! It says a well-regulated militia. So the well-regulated militia, they're the only ones that can have these weapons. Sorry to burst your bubbles, guys, but back when this was written, the militia provided their own weapons. Period. And oftentimes, civilian weapons were superior to anything that the government would buy. As a matter of fact, in the United States, it wasn't until the Spanish-American War that military-grade weaponry actually began to be better. Actually began to perform the specific task of military operations better than civilian weapons. And even now, that's not always true because most of the sniper weapons that are used are simply modifications of civilian sporter rifles for shooting, deer, pigs. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of the free state. Now, there's a lot of people that want to point to that and say, well, the militia, obviously it's speaking of the militia, so only the militia should have those good weapons, and it must be well-regulated. Yeah, not how it goes, guys. For one thing, when looking at or discussing a document such as this, you cannot read it with today's intent, I guess, if you will. At the time this was written, civilian weapons, first and foremost, were often superior individually to those made by the government or issued by the government. This is a product of the fact that an individual who needed a firearm to hunt or protect themselves on the frontier would generally pour a few more dollars into it to have a good quality piece than the government, which was buying a multitude of the weapons. And also at this point, the vast majority of firearms, there's no factories for firearms. They're all handcrafted. Each one is handcrafted. So if the government was paying, they're paying for the cheapest model available. This condition lasted really kind of effectively until the Spanish-American War. Even in the Civil War, there were individuals that purchased their own weapons because they were superior to what the U.S. Military would issue. Now in the South, there were a lot more individual weapons merely because the South didn't have the production facilities that the North had. I mean, they got Enfields and such from Great Britain, but I digress. The average weapon in the hands of a soldier in that time frame, if it was not purchased on the civilian market, was inferior to the other weapons that were available. This really, again, this kind of starts to swing about the Spanish-American War, and then as you get into World War I, weapons are developed specifically for military purposes like the BAR, the M2, so on and so forth. So for the first 120 years of the United States history, a well-regulated militia was simply a militia that brought their own weapons. Now the second part of this is even more telling. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This was written specifically because it was understood that the militia is formed of the people and that the people will be bringing their own weapons. And if the people are restricted in any way, shape, or form, infringed upon, they will not have the weaponry necessary to come join the militia and then protect the free state. It's very, very clear. It's equally clear that the intent of the writers was that the populace have military grade, the dumbest thing ever, weaponry. Now, realistically, given the world today, am I advocating that the populace, that everybody be able to go get an M203 and a bandolier of grenades for the 203, or maybe an M240? Yes, I am. And the reason for it is the second non really verbalized part of the Second Amendment is in more of a condition of, again, coming out of the Revolutionary War, is that the Founding Fathers and the people that wrote this and established our country were very, very aware that the only way to keep a government honest, especially a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, was that the people be able to go in and remove that government should it prove necessary. That is a secondary part, and it's very, very obvious when you think about the fact that these guys had just gotten through fighting a war to overthrow a government that they found to be objectionable. Where does that leave us? Well, that leaves us with a problem. And the problem is not the tool. The problem is not the tool. Throughout the 18th, the end of the 18th, the 19th, and the early part of the 20th century, an individual with enough money could have produced and shipped, had a crew for a battleship, basically. A frigate in the day, an ironclad in the Civil War. Cash is king. So these are tools. There are knife attacks. There was a knife attack a couple years ago in China where 100 people were wounded on a train. People die by hammers. Supposed religious individuals on jihad in Europe have used vehicles to plow down people. Those are all tools. More people die in this country from medical malpractice than are murdered via different weapons. Should we outlaw doctors? We outlaw cars? We outlawed drugs a long time ago. That seemed to work. And as was posted on a meme I perused through the other day, the government can't even keep telemarketers from calling my phone. How are they going to keep the negative individuals with assault weapons, another stupid term, how are they going to keep them from, keeping their weapons? Because obviously anybody willing to commit murder is going to be stupefied and stopped by a law keeping them from having a firearm. I mean, it's not like they're going to resort to a kitchen knife. And then you have things like this. Beto O'Rourke, this is during the Democratic primary in Houston, is quoted, "Hell yes, we're going to take away your AR-15, your AK-47. That's where the quote ends on this paper. I know he said more. I don't have it. But this is just problematic. An AR-15 uses a 5.56 millimeter hyper-accelerated round that, while it's said is designed to wound, is actually just, it's designed in the way it's designed so that the rifleman can carry more ammunition. More ability to shoot more people, yes. But it is not an M16. Its ballistics are fair at best. It just looks scary. Oh, and it can have a bayonet on the end, so you can turn your $1,000 weapon system into a $1,000 pike. AK-47s have a 7.62 millimeter round. They have better ballistics, but they have, well, depending on your opinion and depending on the individual weapon and how it's been taken care of, tightened up, zoomed in, may or may not have the accuracy that you want. The same thing applies though. You pull the trigger once, it fires once. It is inferior. They are inferior to military operations from their military cousins. So a true AK-47 with full automatic capability, for instance, or an M16 with 3-round burst. In any case, I've never heard of an AR-15 going out and killing a bunch of people without a shooter. And I've never heard of an AK-47 popping out and going, I'm going to go kill some people, see you later. The Second Amendment guarantees the other amendments. Now, basically with Mr. O'Rourke, there's two interpretations to this. One, it's malicious. That the people that say the Democratic side wish to disarm the citizenry and all of those other conspiracy theories are correct, and he's making this statement with purpose. The other, and I consider much more likely concept, is that he has no clue. He truly doesn't understand the Second Amendment. He does not understand the time period in which it was written. He does not understand what the government is intended to do in the United States. And he is just saying something that he thinks will be popular with his base and help energize them and get the vote out. He's a politician. It's the second one. These people would they would do very, very bad things just to get your vote if they thought it would get your vote. My opinion, your mileage may vary. But this is straight up contrary to the Second Amendment. There's no question. It is unconstitutional. The act itself, oh man, the fact that he just says this, it just blows my mind. It does. It just blows my mind that somebody running for president would out and out say something that is so evidently unconstitutional. He might as well have said, hell yes, we're going to come knock down your door and live in your bedroom. Or hell yes, we're going to knock down your door, come in and take you in with no due process. You can see your family in 2 years. These are not again, a bill of privileges. It's a bill of rights. So maybe instead of focusing on the tools and trying to disarm the population that is 99.999% and higher law-abiding, instead of making more laws that only affect those who are willing to follow the law, maybe our politicians, maybe our government as a whole, on both sides, should really start trying to figure out how to help identify and aid people that need mental health. Maybe we should stop slinging mud and calling everybody evil. Orange men bad, for instance. Maybe we should get back to a point where we can be rational and have a discussion. I can have discussions with people all day long who have political opinions opposed to mine. My previous coworker, who was effectively my partner, has different political opinions from me. He's a different ethnicity from me. He views life differently than I view life. But never once in 6 years did I look at him and tell him to shut up. You're not my friend. I hate you for your political opinions. And never once did he do the same to me. We stated our points. We looked at life from our viewpoints. And we voted our consciences. And otherwise, we never had a problem. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like it, that's okay. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. If you want to help me out, or you have particular questions or events that you would like to see covered, please let me know either through the comments or at oneangryhistorian@gmail.com. I appreciate you watching the video. Have a good day.